Hello and welcome. It's Vintage Super League. I'm standing with one of the luckiest men in Vintage Super League this season. Is that you, Eric Froelich? Is that
No.
possible that you got lucky and ran well?
Well, I mean, we did brick for the first 46 cards of our deck, but after then it came out pretty good. I was trying to convince Kai to concede, but he's too much of a showman to he wanted to play it out.
Yeah, that game, you were completely dead. I guess it's game one where you had the crazy top deck ancestral into blah blah blah. It was Paul set it up beautifully too. He was talking about how Eric's basically dead, but if there's going to be a good story, it's going to start with I top decked an ancestral recall. That's how the story has to start, and then it came off the top, and then it was pure gasoline. What
Yeah,
a
that
match
tends
of
to be the
magic!
case when you need multiple cards that you got to start with a good one. So
Pretty much. Yeah, it's up there. Bob had an ancestral like that a couple seasons ago. That was up there.
yeah, to be fair, that was also against me, and he had to hit exact three cards, two of which were one ofs. So
I forgot it was against you.
yeah, so,
And
well,
the other
whatever.
thing
That,
is,
that was also a great match. I mean, that match against Bob was I lost, and it was very frustrating the way that I lost. But it was also one of the best matches that as far as a spectator is concerned. So it's cool to see. I mean, it happens. Like this is vintage. Like every single week, and in most of the matches, we have one of the games where it's pretty crazy. And yes, they're not as crazy as that one. I put my odds of winning in that slim 1-ish% type range. I mean, yeah, you have to start with the perfect card and then still find like very good cards to go from there. And that tends to be the case. I mean, Luis and I are playing what is a main deck like 59 card mirror, and my one card is great while his is
yeah,
bad. So
it totally, game one was
whoever
complete.
whoever wins is going to get lucky, assuming that neither of us make a horrific mistake. Whether it's early in the game, whether it's late in the game, whoever won that match was going to be whoever got luckier, and it was
Well,
us.
look, it is definitely true, though. Game one, the difference between sudden shock and wear tear was extremely relevant. Like,
Yeah,
you sudden shocked a mentor, and he sat with a wear tear in his hand that did nothing. So that's not just luck. That small difference in the deck list actually did matter. Whatever, because you got the mirror.
sure, but
I
the
also
point
thought,
is that like if you take a match like that, whoever wins is going to be the one who got luckier, assuming neither of us make a horrific blunder, which we
sure,
don't make too many of. Many
no,
people in
very
this league, we
unlikely.
got a lot of Hall of Famers who tend to play pretty tight, and so that's a lot of what it is. Maybe it's the opening hand, maybe it's winning the die roll, maybe it's drawing the ancestral into perfects later, but or maybe it's just having the mentor with the gushes earlier. Like there's gonna be a lot of luck, and so he got a little bit luckier than me early on, and then had a huge advantage, and then I got incredibly lucky. So uh, in the end, obviously, winning in two games against one of the best players of all time playing a mirror means.
Yeah,
But,
game two too. We're watching it from Luis's perspective, and I think he thought he had you in game two as well
oh yeah,
because you came up with the second or the pyroblast in addition to the misstep, and he let's just say he was adding graphics to his screen to express his displeasure with the situation.
yeah, I wasn't a hundred. Like that opening hand was like you can't mulligan it, but it's also like no early interaction. Hope strip mine's good. Then we had a miscommunication when Luis cast a pre-order, and I'm like, and Kai just clicked through it. I'm like, well, kind
Ah,
of misstep that one, but
got it.
it stinks either way. And he's like, he'll probably draw ancestral, which he didn't. But
Fair enough. That was just a great match on the short list of most fun matches I've ever watched in VSL.
yeah, I'm glad
Now,
Luis got to play a match where we both drew a ton of cards. Since we've
yeah,
played a lot of great matches and a lot of matches that have been not quite as much fun. And that one, I mean, obviously whoever came out on the losing end was going to feel pretty bad because the other person got much luckier. But
yeah, I mean,
I'm
we could
glad.
look at the schedule, but by my math, you have now clinched a postseason match. You're not necessarily in fourth, but you can't do worse than a tie for fourth. Also, Luis has a win in next week. So there's no way, given these results so far, to get four different players to 6 wins.
Well,
So if you can't
so
get four people above 5-4, then 5-4 is going to make at least a tiebreaker match.
we can still get. I think we can still get four people above 5-4.
Who are they?
If Paul beats Rich, which we haven't figured out what game we're in yet, but that match still has to happen. They're both
Sure.
5-3. If Shuhei beats Steve, he's 6-2. Shuhei then plays Luis. It doesn't matter. Let's say Luis wins, goes to 5-4. Shuhei 6-3. I play Steve. I can get to 6-3. Paul and Rich will play two different players. I don't know who they play, but they can both get to 6-3. I think.
I did this. I think the matchups don't allow it. So you're saying it's
Well,
Paul, Rich,
we said
you,
he
and
plays Shuhei. I know I play Steve. So that leaves Paul and Rich have to play two of yourself, Webb, Brian Kelly, and Kai, in which case they can both win. That's contingent on Paul beating Rich, but then
right.
they can both get to 6-3. Shuhei can lock up a 6-3 right now, and it would have to for the scenario. And then I can beat Steve to get to 6-3.
You can get to 6-3. Rich, if he. Why is this so hard? You're saying it's you, Shuhei, Rich, and who's your fourth in this world?
Rietzel.
Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I did this math earlier, and I swear I came to a different conclusion.
Well, I did it on the fly when Luis brought it up.
Yeah, no, I see. I think
so I could easily be wrong, but I don't.
like Paul and I both did this math actually.
So.
Because Paul assumed that if he won, he was in, and then I looked through it and I convinced myself
that is accurate. That if Paul wins, that he is locked because if he loses, he'll be one of the 5 and 4s. However, he can get to 6-3. So all the people at 5 and 3 now cannot miss.
Got it. We can't get 4 people above Paul. We can still get 4 people
above 5 wins now. So Rich Shea is locked to make the top, the playoff. But everyone at 4 and 4 is not. So if Rich, Paul, myself, and Chile can all finish 6-3, but we all have 5 wins right now if Paul wins. And so everyone at 5 wins would be locked to at least play a play-in, but that doesn't mean that everyone who gets to 5 wins eventually will be locked to win the play-in.
Yep. Okay. I see your point.
I think that's what Paul is saying, but not really.
It means the 4-4s do not have guaranteed play-ins, depending. I mean, I still think probably. I mean, it's something like, what did you just specified 5 results that have to go exactly the right way for 5 and 4 to miss? But yes, it is.
Not quite, because Shuhei can win one of the 2 matches, and it doesn't have to be Luis as the 1 5 and 4. Like it could be Kai or Brian. There's a lot of people at that 4-4 record. So, but yeah, it would have to be myself, Paul again, and Rich. So yeah, I guess that is 4 results.
Fair enough. Needless to say, things are crowded, and those buys are going to be huge. And those next week, well, when we come back, next week is not happening for a couple of weeks, as we talked about earlier, but going to be some high-stake matches. Meanwhile, this match is big. It is biggest, I think, for Webb and myself. If Steve Menendian can win this match, then the race for last, he's still capable of dragging 2 of us down with him. But if Shuhei wins, Webb and I guarantee ourselves a spot in the next season, and Steve will be the only person relegated. Sounds like our players are ready, so let's get down to the action. Hello and welcome. Last round of the night, last round before we take a couple of weeks off. Shuhei doesn't have an Oath of Druids in his hand. What's going on, Eric Froelich?
He can still get there on 6.
You think you mulligan, you don't have a turn 1 Oath of Druids?
I don't know if Shuhei knows how to play the deck without one. Have we seen? I mean, his hand is fine. Mental Misstep is pretty good in the matchup. 2 Orchards is a little weak, though. He really doesn't want to do early.
And he didn't have any acceleration, so he did, in fact, take a mulligan. This hand is it better? It's pretty similar.
It is very similar.
Especially now that he's got an Orchard that he can potentially... I don't even know if you put that on top. I guess you do.
Yeah, it's more or less the same hand.
Yeah, he's down a Misstep. He's got Misstep Flusterstorm to fight Steve instead of Misstep, which is probably better.
Yeah, I mean, Soul Rings tends to be a good card to have. He lost his Jace, though. Not that he even has 2 blue right now, but...
Right, and he didn't in the last hand, which he didn't have the 4th mana in the last hand. All right, Menendian, meanwhile, kept 7. Menendian is playing crazy combo deck. He's basically a Gush deck. He happens to have a couple of young Pyros, but he's also got all the broken stuff you could possibly fit into one of these decks. Which I think is actually a pretty good way to fight against Oath. Like, he knew he was going to be playing Shuhei. He didn't know Shuhei would be on Oath, but he had to put it as a large part of Shuhei's range. So he said, you know what? I'll play combo deck. I don't need to play creatures. I don't have to attack.
I've got a question. What's the second deck on Shuhei's range? If you had to pick a number 2.
For the rest of Shuhei's range? I have no idea. Oh, look, he preordained into Oath of Druids.
Possibly put him on since he's never played another deck before.
Right, but I mean, look, there's a giant chunk of his range, which is Oath, and then there's, you get to the edge of the map, and there'd be dragons here, right? You don't know what's in that part of the map.
At least with like something, you look at Webb and you're like, his range, what has he played? It's like workshops. Eldrazi, it's a little bit different. It's like Thorn effects. And with Shuhei, is it like another kind of combo-y deck? Is it just kind of a blue control deck? What is his number 2?
Yeah, interesting. Well, Shuhei he's actually held both an Oath and an Orchard now, but he bottomed the Orchard. He preordained into the Oath of Druids, and now there's a Thoughtseize for Steve Menendian. Yeah, he takes the Oath. He does not take the Flusterstorm. He's not a big fan of Flusterstorm, but he has to worry about a Forbidden Orchard just turning Shuhei's deck on immediately, and Steve's hand wants to go a little bit slow. Here we go. Notepad.exe. We are watching from Steven's perspective. Apologize for the problems several of our league members have had logging into Magic Online tonight. Our producer is also unable to log into Magic Online, so we're watching Steve's computer. That's why our graphics don't quite line up perfectly.
Yeah, nobody noticed till you said it.
You can tell Steve has a smaller monitor than Luis. The graveyards are like 4 times as big now.
Luis was probably in 3 draft while he was playing our match. So I had to make it a little bit smaller.
Ancestral Recall, is that a good card?
Well, Shuhei found exactly what he wanted to find.
He really did. Steve has the ability to pay for the Flusterstorm that he knows about.
Yep.
But, bad news. Top of Shuhei's deck had his back once again.
Wow, all of a sudden Shuhei's hand, which looked really anemic, is kind of just doing fine. Like, this Yawgmoth Bolt could have potentially been a real problem, but Flusterstorm's a great answer to that. Force of Will is not a clean answer to Flusterstorm.
Yeah. Menendian can now, in theory, Yawgmoth's Will back the Ancestral, but not through Flusterstorm.
Yeah, these are both combo-ish decks to the point where they have a lot of draws that are just not good. There could be a lot of draw stats where you're just drawing Gristlebrand or, Yawgmoth's Wills that you can't really do much with. Yawgmoth's Will would be fine. Obviously, if he cast it and knew there wasn't a Flusterstorm, he would do that and just get, some value. But
he's
getting close to that.
Yeah, he's getting close to the ability. Next turn, in theory, he could pay 2, then get the fetch land out of the yard, cast an Ancestral if he wanted to go for a value will. Brainstorm messes that up by changing the storm count, but what are you going to do?
I'm curious how many discard spells Steve has, since discard is the best way to deal with a card like Flusterstorm.
Right. And remember, he actually chose to take Oath of Druids over Flusterstorm with his first Thoughtseize. Steve's list is 2 copies of Thoughtseize.
Yep, that's it.
Period, the end, in terms of hand destruction.
The problem now is that if Steve goes for something like Yawgmoth's Will, Shuhei's actually found an instant that he can cast and get that storm count up.
Right. Brainstorm is responsive, and then Flusterstorm is going to blow Steve out, I think. Although, he can actually force a will 1 copy of Flusterstorm, pay for 1, force of will 1, and still resolve his Yawgmoth's Will for a fetch land and an Ancestral. I mean, I think that's his plan. But if Shuhei hits another instant off this Brainstorm, then Steve's plan does not work.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to hit another instant, realistically, just because he's not going to have blue mana, but not completely out of the woods. Well,
Mind Break Trap.
he's also found the orchard. So
Oh my God, he has. Now he's got Oath Orchard. He's got.
Shuhei made a
Oh
play
my
that
God.
not everyone would make. He sacked his fetch land before casting the brainstorm, knowing that his hand's already good. He doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily want to shuffle away an Oath of Druid, so leaving that in play when he knows he's going to cast Flusterstorm, he didn't want to use it, brainstorm shuffle away.
that's a good point.
Instead,
Yeah, that's a great point.
so now Shuhei is going to get to potentially.
Right. It's a
If Steve
Fluster
has the
Storm with a
line of
storm count of 2. So Steve has. So it's a mana leak, and Steve only has 2 untapped, but he can
Unfortunately,
force a
it's a
will.
mana leak that you can't just counter one copy of.
Oh, interesting. Steve Menendian is not willing to spend his force a will. It would have worked. I'm surprised. I would. Don't you pay one force?
This would be a huge mistake. Okay, he plays the orchard. He can hard cast the Mind Break Trap, but he had to play the orchard first. And so he wanted to disguise that he didn't have the orchard when casting the oath, and then realized, oh, I can't actually cast my counterspell if I do this.
Here's what Menendian saved his force a will for, but God, the last card in Shuhei Nakamura's hand is the Mind Break Trap that he's capable of hard casting.
Steve has run into some bad luck this year.
True story. Yeah, this wasn't quite losing, 4 out of 5 mana crypt flips, but it's up there.
Yeah, I mean, pinpointing the exact moments in time where Steve ran bad is kind of a futile exercise, but it is
You
pretty
just
much
point to season 5, right? That's all you have to do.
it's just kind of a collective week after week of just nothing going right. And the interesting thing, like, if Steve loses this match, I think that drops him to 1-7. With his
Yeah.
one win being when he had to stream himself and played a great match, had commentary, and every other match has just not gone according to plan. And they all would have been great to have him doing self commentary on too, because I mean, I know how frustrated I would be at least.
I know how frustrated I was. Steve did it much better than I did.
Well, he won. That was
Yeah.
He found it.
And did a great job. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
All right.
one of the best.
Preordained bottom came up with a merchant scroll. What can you get? Just you get gush and cross your fingers, right? I mean, what is he drawing toward? I mean, Yogwell's in the graveyard. I mean, Demonic Tutor's a good card, but you have to hope Jace is relevant.
He can get Lotus Jace, right?
Steve has not played a land this turn. Right, Steve has not played a land this turn.
So he could bounce the token, save himself a turn, try to brainstorm, but his will's gone. His Lotus and Ancestral are going to be gone. He's got nothing
Doesn't
in
he
hand.
have a regrowth? He might have a regrowth. He does. He has a regrowth. It's not RF. It's not exiled. It's just in the graveyard from a counterspell. Yeah. So I think this is. You can DT Black Lotus Jace. You can either bounce the token or try to fight the oath that way. Not sure what else he can DT for that's relevant.
Yeah, it feels like he's got to at least start with bouncing the token, give himself another turn to see what he can do, but it's a tough thing to beat.
Oh, we've seen Jace beat Oath decks this season. Shuhei's, though, a little more streamlined than Brian Kelly's latest brew.
Yeah, if he had a way to stop the graveyard so that the Auric Salvagers shenanigans couldn't happen, that would definitely be a thing, just because, not being able to give your creatures haste if you can't cast your Time Walk. Jace can shut down Gristlebrand reasonably well. But
yeah, you're right, though. The Auric Salvager's kill is not vulnerable to Jace.
Yeah, Steve's definitely not dead, but it's a pretty reasonable start, all things considered.
Yeah, no, I thought he was actually dead. It was Preordain into Merchant Scroll, into Gush, into Black Lotus Jace. Solid. Well, DT for Black Lotus, same thing. Shuhei looking at a Jace of his own on that Ponder?
Yeah, you can't really cast Jace because I mean, he can, but
Oh,
he
jeez.
does.
Oh,
Just
jeez.
tap the Orchard now, and then the Jace could bounce that token again. That also does shut Steve down from using the Jace for real value.
Second Orchard, though. If he Ancestrals into the second Orchard, then he can
He could
tap
also
one. No, that doesn't work, does it?
well, he could Jace. Oh yeah, he's not. He has no cards in hand, so no.
Have lost the screen share. Hopefully that can be restored. Yeah. All right. So.
Ancestral.
Yep. Ancestral into Jace and Mindbreak Trap. So he's going to sit with untapped mana and shift the turn back to Steve. Two
Yeah.
Orchards ready to turn his own oath on.
Yeah, so this oath is going to happen, and he's got Mindbreak Trap to stop any really crazy shenanigans. So, good spot. I'm not sure there's any way out of this one now. Although, I guess if no, even if it's the bottom two cards or Gristlebrand and then Salvagers, it's still going to win. Yeah, time walk. Shuhei can just choose if he wants to Mindbreak Trap this.
So where's Steve going? What do you think he's trying to set up?
He's just going to time walk, look at a new set of cards with Jace, and hope that's good enough, but the time walk's just not going to resolve.
Yeah, at this point, Stevens used his Jace, so not much.
At that point, if Shuhei's hand was blank and Steve then Jaced into Regrowth, into Yawgmoth's Will, into Land Lotus, it still feels like he's so short that he still needs so much more mana to get to a Tendrils kill. I guess a Tendrils for 7 is good enough, but it still seems like that's pretty far off. I guess the Mox in hand helps a little.
You just gotta add Black Lotus in. You gotta come up with Regrowth Black Lotus, I think, and then he might have had a chance. That said, Shuhei's hand was not blanks. In fact, was a second copy of Mindbreak Trap. How about the multiple main deck Mindbreak Traps from Shuhei this set? He's not just running Oath back, like he's fiddling with numbers. All right, came up with Area Salvagers, but does not have any trinkets in the graveyard.
Yeah, the Salvagers are just the top card. It's so. Oh no, he cast Ancestral after. Oh, he didn't even cast Jace.
Right, yeah, I don't think he's brainstormed it. I think it's just happened to be there.
He put that card on top, but I guess not.
Time for a treasure cruise. No problem, says Stephen Menendian. All right. Engineered explosives do anything? Not really.
This does become a weird situation where if Steve bounces the Auriok Salvagers, Shuhei has the option to Oath, but then he's got that 1 in 36 chance of just dying.
Has he put nothing on the bottom? Like, he could preordain 2 cards to the bottom right now and make sure that he's... Grizzlebrain can't be the last card. Yeah, I mean, Preordain and Dig Through Time both let him do essentially that.
Well, he found Black Lotus, so...
Well, he found the Black Lotus, so now he has infinite mana, but I don't think he wins yet. He can Engineered Explosives for however many numbers he wants.
How is this going to play out when he plays the Black Lotus? Is Steve going to make him start gaining a bunch of mana? He's just going to sit there and wait?
Well, there's no kill card, right? Steve shouldn't
no kill
scoop.
card, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve would wait to see a kill card. Sometimes this deck gets infinite mana and just doesn't have anything to do with it. I think then that's exactly where we are, right? I mean, he's going to preordain, obviously. So now he needs any spell bomb. Well, he needs. I guess there's only the one spell bomb. He basically just needs the spell bomb.
Right.
All right, gain some mana. And Steve's like, show me the kill card. Nope. Nope. Top deck. Yoink. No. So Steve gets a turn.
Let's get a turn. Jace, unfortunately, at 3. Steve can only attack with 2.
There are 2 cards now on the bottom of Shuhei's library, though, so activating Oath on his next turn is not scary. In fact, well, no. I mean, you still don't know whether the spell bomb is above or below the Gristlebrand, but you can go get a Gristlebrand with no risk of decking yourself accidentally.
There's now risk, right? Because, I mean, let's say you go down pretty low in your library, but there's 2 cards beneath it. There's still a Jace to bounce the Gristlebrand. If the Salvagers is bounced to your hand and that gets countered, you don't have any counters left in your deck. You could potentially get decked that way. It's not, I mean, yeah, it's a long shot, but there is a way that Steve could not lose this game.
And by the way, Shuhei he's making mana here because presumably he wants to engineer explosives for 4, I guess. He's willing to blow up. That doesn't make sense.
Guys.
Yeah, he loses his salvagers. What is he up to? I mean, he can explosives for essentially the only relevant numbers on this board are 0, 2, and 4. 2 only blows up his own Oath. That seems wrong. 4, I think blowing up the 2 Jaces is a trade Shuhei would take, but he doesn't want to blow up his salvagers.
I agree.
Is he going to accidentally blow up his own Auriok salvagers?
This could happen.
He's used his Jace, right? No, he's going to plug explosives for 0.
Does Steve have creatures?
He has a couple young pyros.
Pyromancers?
He has a couple young pyros. Yeah, so Shuhei can explosives for 0, get back his Mox Emerald. The net effect of all those clicks was blowing up Steve's 1 Mox, right? Oh, he blew up the tokens is the other thing he did. Which now gives Steve the option to Oath. Didn't Shuhei want the ability to Oath on his own turn? Not sure quite what the point of that was.
I mean, if Steve does Oath, it lets Shuhei Oath again. That felt weird.
I mean, I guess Shuhei defended his Jace?
Yeah, Jace wasn't under too much pressure. Plus, he gets Gristlebrand next turn and wins. But.
Oh, right. You can respond to the Oath trigger. Oath of Druids, it's an intervening if clause, so it counts to check to see if who has more creatures, both when it goes on the stack and also when it resolves. So you only get to Oath of Druids if you have fewer creatures, both when it triggers, because it doesn't get on the stack unless it sees that you're behind, wait. And also when it resolves.
So Shuhei can now bounce the Salvagers and Thought Seize it. This game's not over.
Interesting.
Or Steve could do that.
Yeah.
He didn't do that, though. That feels like a good line.
Yeah? I mean, at that point, Shuhei's down to a Grizzlebrand, and it's hard to attack with Grizzlebrand when your opponent has a Jace.
Yeah, really hard.
I mean, you have to start hardcasting it, which is possible, but
Shuhei has the explosives. He can kill the Jace, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure engineered explosives is Planeswalkers, but not positive, I guess. Drake's non-man permanent. Yeah, so he could kill the Jace, but at that point, he's going to have to wait, he can't. No, I guess he could. He could Oath up Gristlebrand, play explosives, kill both Jaces.
Yeah.
Then does Steve have another Jace in his deck? Steve does not have another Jace in his deck. All right, so that would probably win.
In other words, Bounce Salvagers thought sees it does not win Steve the game here because it would have lost to Grizzlebrand plus explosives for 4.
Good. I'm saying, well, Shuhei would have to see it. Yes.
Fair.
You could actually cast it off the Black Lotus too.
Yeah.
But at that point, Steve
Once.
would have outs to draw a counter spell. Plus, it could be the third or whatever from the bottom card. I don't know. Trying to figure out stuff from an incredible long shot.
But none of this matters. Steve decided to brainstorm with his Jace. Now, what's his plan? Shuhei is not going to get to Oath because he blew up the tokens. Shuhei doesn't play this deck super aggressively. Like, he's usually content to let the game develop for a couple of turns.
It's not necessarily a bad place to be when you have those 2 Orchards, Salvager, Infinite Mana, and a Jace, but...
Right. Oh, he can't win next turn. Well, he can't win next turn without... I guess he gets, 4? He gets to see 4 cards to find the Spell Bomb. Yeah, Steve's hand does basically nothing. Oh, he can kill Jace. He can Lightning Bolt the Jace. It's not bad. He can also attack with the token and potentially Lightning Bolt the Salvagers if Shuhei blocks.
Problem is, if he doesn't block, then the Salvagers kills your Jace.
Yeah, it does seem bad.
Although it's going to be bad either way. The Explosives is going to take out the token, the Salvagers is going to kill the Jace.
Yep.
No real way to get around that when your opponent has infinite mana. And infinite explosives.
So, bolt the Jace.
Yeah, bolt the Jace. I don't think Steve has really ways to actually win this game, but...
Yes, I would like to redirect the damage.
Just put him to 10 and send a message.
You don't get to carry that over to the next game,
That token can't even attack. He Orchard in response to the Oath.
Right. Summoning Sickness.
Not that he really wants to.
Okay. I mean, you cast the Time Walk. You make tokens and go get the Grizzlebrand, right? Is there any reason not to? Shuhei doesn't know Steve's hand, so... I mean, it's easy for us to say, oh, it's an artifact and a sorcery, just to win the damn game. But Shuhei's trying to play around everything. The deck lists are public. He is going to go ahead and Oath out a Grizzlebrand.
I think I would start with Explosives for 0, kill the Jace, then make 2 tokens.
Sure. Steve sighs at the Time Walk. Funny. He's got a Grizzlebrand. He's now got a Flusterstorm, too. Draw 7, down to 6 life.
Should have bolted him.
I do not see a Spell Bomb. 16 cards left in Shuhei's library. The bottom 2, we know, are blanks.
Let's go to the library, Explosives for 0, use it, Mox.
Yeah, he clearly needs to Explosives for 0 and attack the Jace. He also wants to cast the Preordain, presumably, since he could just win the game on the spot. But he's seeing, 2 of the 14 remaining cards. Steve's got the concede game button ready. Just show me the Spell Bomb. Steve's done. Yeah, there's no way he's winning that. The best Steve can come up with is getting to untap, and he's never winning that game from there. So Shuhei Nakamura wins that game trying to make a run at the #1 seed, which would
Yeah,
get
it's
him
just
a
that no one
couple
could
of
put him on.
buys in the playoffs.
That was the problem. No one could put him on oath. He just had 9 good matchups. Just no one saw it coming.
What does Steve's Oath sideboard look like? Is he just figuring he's faster than Oath, so whatever? Or does he have...
Young
Yeah, I mean, he's got
Target
ley
mainly.
lines, which are sort of relevant to the Bomberman combo, but probably not worth bringing in because you'll just lose to Gristlebrand. But yeah, he does not have anything like Grafdigger's Cage. His plan against Oath is, I don't care. I don't need to win with creatures. I'm just going to tendrils you out. That is his plan.
There's one copy of Abrupt Decay, but looks like that's it.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Bring it in, but it's not the 4X Grafdigger's Cage you often see. I mean, I assume he brought in his Pyroblast as well.
Two-Face hand's real bad this time. Not much better.
Wow. Steve's is plenty serviceable. Shuhei keep those 6.
5.
What's the card on the left of Steve's hand? Is that a Flusterstorm?
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, it kind of looks like the art for the Sea Exarch, but I think it's Flusterstorm. Would be cool.
Shuhei keeps Acceleration, a Mindbreak Trap, and that's it.
Yeah, I do not like that hand.
I mean, you get a Scry.
You'll probably have turn 2 Orchard Oath. It's fine.
That Mindbreak Trap's going to eat an Ancestral here. The Mox was spell #1. Oh, no, Steve doesn't have the mana. Next turn. Hilarious.
Yeah, Steve probably wouldn't have cast it.
There's the Orchard. We're on schedule for next turn. No blue Mox, though, right? So Shuhei does not actually have hard cast Mindbreak Trap ready?
No. Not yet.
He's just going to look as scary as possible. Look at me. 6 cards in my hand. Fear me. Steve's going to be like, bro, I've got 2 Flusterstorms. I do not fear you. I would like 3 cards.
Yeah, I mean, this could still be another one of those classic Menendian games where he ends up with 7 incredible answers in his hand while his opponent has nothing, but just nothing happens for long enough that bad news starts to develop, but we'll see.
Now, let's say Shuhei does draw an Oath. It just works.
Yeah.
You cannot Flusterstorm an enchantment.
There's a Brainstorm, so...
He's going to tap out to regrow the Ancestral. Sure. Perfectly fine target for that card. It was a good play 23 years ago. Still a good play.
Shuhei checking to see if he can cast Mindbreak Trap.
Nope, that's just 2 spells. Sorry.
Draws Oath.
Oh. He's going to preordain into it.
There's a misstep, so... Steve has survived the onslaught of what would have been a turn 2 Orchard Oath. Instead, it will be turn 3 with Mind Trap backup. Mystical is not bad. At the very least, it gives him access to like Mystical for Forcible Brainstorm into it if he really needed to. I don't know if he's planning on using it now. There'll probably be a notepad at some point soon.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just start by drawing 3 and seeing where you're at, right?
I generally like starting there. I'm not fortunate enough to have the option. I take it.
He's going to wait. He's going to do it on Shuhei's upkeep because if he doesn't draw anything, any zeros, then he would have been forced to discard. So Ancestral's on Shuhei's upkeep. Comes up with a Force of Will. That was big.
And here's Steve with his 12-card hand of 100 answers and no answer.
Why won't you do anything? I have all these answers.
Oh, he does get to brainstorm for even more of them.
Yeah, brainstorm, fetch. Then a mystical.
Ooh,
A fast bond and a young pyro. Surely Steve wins this game. Even he can't get unlucky enough to lose from here, right? I ask you, you're an expert on getting unlucky, right? That's it's certainly what I have gathered by following you in various social media outlets. Is
It's
it
possible
possible to
to
lose
get
from
up.
here?
He's not 100%. Pretty close.
Now, does he have a proactive plan for next turn? Is kind of the interesting question. Is he going to mystical to set something up, or is he just going to content himself with Young Pyro? I mean, don't you mystical for Gush, right? You've got Young Pyro and Fast Bond. I don't know. Maybe you go slower than that, so you wind up with the mystical for Yogwell. Doesn't have that much mana though. Really needs Gush. This draw just needs a Gush.
Yeah, Gush is a good card.
Going straight for the Yogwell. Reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, Yagwell does give him access to a bunch of cards that can give him a bunch of more Gushes. Like he can Merchant Scroll.
Right. He can Merchant Scroll for Gush out of his yard, but his mana is a little tight. He can resolve Fast Bomb, but I think there's only the one Scalding Tarn in his yard. Maybe there's a second fetch land hiding in there. But still, by the time you go Fast Bond Yogwell, you're tapped out, right? Okay, fine. Play an Emerald. You have 1 mana left over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't Young Pyro into it. Do you just... I think this is Young Pyro, then Fast Bond, then go? Is that crazy?
Certainly not crazy.
Yeah, Shuhei's seen enough. It's like, fine, look. You Ancestraled, then you regrowthed your Ancestral, then you Brainstormed, you Mystical Tutored for Yogwell. I have a Mindbreak Trap and a bunch of mana, so... Shuhei has seen enough. Saw the Young Pyro, knew how the game was going to go from there. Now, Steve happy with that? Does he change anything?
Yeah, I'm guessing there's not too much to change. This is not an exciting sideboard for Oath.
Right.
Steve is another unfortunate victim of just not knowing how unpredictable Shuhei's range is. Or he likes his matchup.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, you just weren't prepared for Oath at all.
Not at all. Not a bit.
Was it even on your radar?
I should have really considered Oath. I should have thought of that.
Well, Shuhei's hand looks absurdly good. Steve's hand is so close to being incredible too. Give him a land and
wow. You can't keep that. You have to crack Lotus for blue, which means you did not play your Young Pyro. He does have a Force of Will to stop whatever Shuhei's broken start is.
I think I've kept worse hands.
Than Steve's?
Yeah.
I've kept similar hands. It's close. It's very close.
I would gamble here. I guess he is 1 game away from locking up relegation. Which
no, he's already relegated.
No,
all he's playing for is
nobody joining him.
Right. All he's playing for is to increase his odds of surviving the next play-in tournament. He wants to take 2 or 3 of us down with him. Well, 2 or 3 total down with him. All right. He cashed it in, and yeah, this draw doesn't do much of anything. Like, it plays mana, which is good.
Yeah, he's got a Pyroblast for the Jace, but Shuhei has the Misstep.
And the Flusterstorm. Shuhei actually needs a land, though, or he's... Well, I guess he's tapping out for Jace, misstepping the Pyroblast. And then he's off to the races.
That's pretty close to lights out.
I don't like Steve's chances from this position versus a Jace.
I mean, he'll still have Flusterstorm up when he passes the turn in all likelihood if he finds a land, too. Also, he might find...
Too good. Nerf, please. All right. plays the Lotus. Now that gives him Flusterstorm mana. He's not going to use it. He's just going to cast the Jace.
He's going to hard cast a Gristlebrand next turn.
All he needs is a Gristlebrand and a fetch land. Steve's looking at this like rolling his eyes. Doesn't matter if I could Pyroblast it now. I could wait till it. No, you Pyroblast it now. There's still there's no decision here, right?
No.
You cross your fingers, hope it works. Point your Pyroblast at the Jace.
Have some kind of weird mystical. Like you can't possibly win. His hand's not even good. Like next turn, I mean, obviously.
Right.
Could win the game. But.
Yeah, he has to fight the Jace. He has to try to fight the Jace.
He even knows that Shuhei led Lotus before playing the Jace, so nothing he does could possibly have. Like, yeah, this is, nothing I can do.
Shuhei keeps checking to see if my Break Trap is turned on.
It's pretty unlikely at 0 spells, but getting warmer.
Well, if it counted your own spells, it would be turned on. It does not. It only counts your opponent's spells. Yeah. A sigh from Steve Menendian. Jace is going to resolve.
Shuhei has 8 mana on turn 2.
Yeah, he's putting the land back? Don't you play the land? So you can have Flusterstorm without cracking your Lotus? Also gives you Mindbreak Trap. I'm surprised by that. He kept Force of Will, Mindbreak Trap.
Have all of them up anyway. Because he would have to put one of these 3 cards back, which he doesn't want to shuffle. And then only one of them is... Like, he could keep Flusterstorm, Mindbreak Trap, but then he doesn't have Force of Will. And so if it... I mean, whatever. Like, he really doesn't want the land. Like, he'd much rather have the only other land he plays this game being Orchard with his Oath, and then have all these counters next turn. And there's really nothing Steve can do. So if he has to Force of Will, he has it. If he had to Flusterstorm, he has it. And honestly, he doesn't need the Lotus in play. Who cares? The Lotus dies, it dies. Like, I got Jason. I still have tons of mana.
Fair enough. Here, yeah, Steve Mysticals for Ancestral. Does what he's got to do. And yeah, Shuhei, because he doesn't have a land, his Flusterstorm requires him to sack the Lotus. You're right, though. The only thing the Lotus was really giving him was the ability to hardcast a Gristlebrand. This does seem fine. Menendian can feel himself sinking deeper and deeper into the relegation zone.
Yeah, there's a Jason play that he probably can't deal with ever. Looking
like it's going to be a one-spot qualifier next season. Well, that's if everybody wants to come back. We did have Chris Bakula chose to take this season off, so that's not unprecedented either.
I knew the Orchard was going to be the next card.
So, our playoff format, you bring 3 decks, right? Does Shuhei bring Oath?
Did you get to tune in for the end of my commentary with Luis when we had to try to fill 20 minutes of Rietzel trying to log in?
Oh, no.
I gave him a hypothetical where if you were going into a tournament and you had to play 3 decks and you were going to play against Kelly Oath, and Kelly Oath, what would you bring? Complete hypothetical, though. He said he likes Containment Priest.
Yeah, I definitely thought about playing a Containment Priest deck. That was my other fork. I just didn't like the Containment Priest matchup against Webb.
You figured out his wide range as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I play against Workshops, Oath, and I don't know.
You could have played Powerless Eldrazi again.
It crossed my mind.
I guess that's an even better matchup for Dredge.
Right, exactly.
He did show up with Storm in like the second ever match that he could play, but then it's stops. Eldrazi.
I keep hearing stories from Luis about Webb playing blue decks back in the day.
Yeah, he is the only player in the league to have never registered Force Will.
Oh, wow. That's probably true.
Paul was on that list.
I mean, look, there's only 2 people this trimester who failed to register Force of Will. And I promise I've played the card in the past.
Well, we also have, Chris Bakula, David Williams,
sure.
Josh Utter-Layton, so yeah. But yes.
Fair.
It's a tough card to register at any point. Although I guess in the finals, he played the same deck that the Landstill deck that Luis and I built was one of his 3 choices when he played against Luis. Ended up coming down to the Landstill Mirror, which had Force Will.
There you go. Steve goes for Dak Faden. Guess what? Shuhei's got an answer. Hardcasts his Mindbreak Trap.
Well, Steve did draw an answer to the Oath. There's still a decent play, but...
Yeah, Shuhei taking his time. He's like, I've got 2 counters. Why would I put this Oath on the table? I want to put it on the table and be able to defend it. Brainstorm with Jace. Put back 2 lands. Crack a fetch land to reshuffle. Now he's got the ability to hardcast Force of Will, so he probably preordains.
You could just play the Oath and have the Force Will.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't know if he was ready yet. He wasn't ready last turn. He actually is going to lose it to this Abrupt Decay, though. We're not done. We're just... One guy has a Jace the Mind Sculptor, and the other guy doesn't.
So it's pretty even.
I mean, I was going to say Shuhei is a personal Howling Mind, but no, it's much better than a personal Howling Mind.
It is significantly better than that, yes.
Steve has a Gush. Card's broken, right? Needs to be restricted.
And if you can find Pyroblast and Flusterstorm...
How about Mox Ruby, Mox Emerald?
No, doesn't help.
No, really doesn't.
I mean, if he found Pyroblast and Flusterstorm, having some Moxes for Storm Count wouldn't be the worst.
Fair.
I guess.
Yeah, we're the point where Steve needs to kill Jace the Mind Sculptor somehow, and then draw into some business.
The business could be just Yawgmoth's Will, depending on how this game plays out. But right now, it's playing out where Shuhei gets a Brainstorm every turn. So
he does not. Oh, he wants the token.
Token.
Sure. Yeah, get the Orchard token, then Abrupt Decay the Oath of Druids.
Yeah, if Steve found one good card off that Gush,
Yeah, you're right.
His odds would go from that sub 5% to maybe closer to 10. Although it's got to feel hopeless. You're still facing down a Jace.
Well, like I said, the good card he needs to find is a way to kill Jace.
He doesn't have very many of them. That's the problem.
Is it just the one Pyroblast? That's all he had in the board. Was there one in the main?
No.
Or have we already gone through the Pyro?
He's
None
got
in the main.
Lightning Bolt, but that came out. Oh, and the Pyro's
Sure.
in the already? I didn't know that's right.
Yeah, Pyro's in the yard already, so.
Well, sculpting a good enough hand that he can potentially storm Alph with a Tendrils. It's going to be tough to do through a Force of Will.
All right, Shuhei brainstorms, comes up with not much. Basically, his draw step and his Jace have given him a fetch land and a spell bomb. Does Preordain find anything? Yes, it finds a replacement Oath of Druids. That should do it.
He did incorrectly tap his Tropical Island, so he would have to give another Orchard token now if he wanted to play that Oath. But it's pretty good. You're giving up a point of damage from your mistake, but whatever.
Or it's a loyalty on Jace. It's actually not irrelevant.
No,
he could wait a turn. He also, if he casts the Oath, then Force of Will's down. Yeah, I think you say go there. I don't want to pass without Force of Will.
Yep.
Like Steve just top decks a Regrowth or something. He just mocks into the Regrowth into the Abrupt Decay again.
Not sure that he wanted to not cast that spell bomb, but whatever.
That's fair. Yeah, you may as well cast the spell. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you cast the spell bomb, then casting Force of Will would require the Orchard. I don't know. It's close. The Jace is the reason I think he's got to be as careful as he can about these tokens.
Yeah, but once the Oath's in play, I mean, we can see Steve's hand and know that Oath's just game over. Where I guess you had just 4 unknowns, but you don't need the Jason play if you have the Oath. And
yeah, easy for us to say, but yeah. How about a test spell like Treasure Cruise? Let's see where we're at. He refuses to tap Mox Sapphire for blue mana. It's bizarre. Keeps tapping dual lands instead of Sapphire. Treasure Cruise resolves? That's got to be good.
Yeah, Steve's hand's not very good here. It's like there's a chalice.
It's pretty. 4 Moxes. What a crazy hand.
And that was the most tilting part of my match. I ended up buying the few cards I needed so I could have the mostly foiled out vintage deck from previous VSLs of having foil power and foil a bunch of stuff, and then to play with
Kai's account couldn't log in.
While we were waiting for the match to get loaded, I did make him switch out the old art for the new art Force of Will for the Alliance's art, but the rest of the did.
So Steve does find a Nature's Claim. He finds something to point at the Oath of Druids. It's another. He's got no way to defend it, but it's one of these. Okay, point Nature's Claim at Oath of Druids. Cross your fingers.
Yeah, I think it's gonna resolve.
Really?
I think so.
I think I Force a Will that if I'm Shuhei.
It feels like there's just so many worse things that can happen. I mean, of course, if you saw the hand of 4 Moxes, you're going to snap it off, or even if you knew 2 of them were Moxes, but there could be 4 real cards, and you still have the Jason play. I don't know.
I might be blinded by my knowledge of Steve's hand. That's fair.
Yeah, I feel like this is the situation where, of course, you'd like your Oath of Druid to stay in play, but I'm winning this game by so much. Why am I taking this chance?
I mean, your Jace is slowly dying.
I mean, he has the Pyrite Spellbomb.
He can spend 2 mana and kill it. He has to spend 2 mana in a card. Yeah, you're right. Interesting.
But you still Force of Will, so I mean, yes, if he casts the Force of Will, the game just ends on the spot. But
I see your point. He doesn't know how bad Steve's hand is.
If you cast the Force of Will and then he plays like Lotus Yawgmoth Will and you just lose, you're like, okay, like that Oath was not that good. He casts Ancestral, Gush, plays the Nature's Claim again. Pyroblast your Jace. It really gets bad.
Steve says go. Wants to see if Shuhei was going to give him another token. No. All right. Upkeep. Response to the trigger. Nature's Claim. You know, this is actually, it's a lot easier to Force a Will it now. Shuhei's still not going to, but once Steve says go and you're on your upkeep, now I think I do Force a Will it. Like, nothing can go wrong at instant speed. All the scary stuff is at sorcery speed.
Steve just didn't understand how the Oath trigger works. He waited till upkeep. The Oath trigger's already on the stack. Oath doesn't have to be in play. Just the creature count is what it checks twice. But the Oath trigger still says you have more creatures. Lotus is already in the graveyard. Spellbomb's in hand.
Is the Lotus in the yard?
He was going to lose this game, but he's not going to be happy with himself.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, he messed that up. And we'll never know if Shuhei would have Force a Willed on his own turn, on Steve's turn.
But I also think Shuhei was going to win that game.
Right? Oh, yeah. Shuhei was winning anyway. I mean, Steve, I'm sure, is kicking himself for misunderstanding how that trigger works. Yeah, once the trigger gets loaded onto the stack, you can change the creature count, but the triggered ability, which is going to count creatures and award someone the ability to Oath, is already on the stack at that point. So, too late. And Shuhei wins 2-0. Here you see our results for the night. Team left side got off to a good start. Kai knocked Brian Kelly down to 4-4, which means Kai is still alive for the playoffs. Brian is still alive for the playoffs. I got the third win that I needed to, I now know, clinch a spot in next season. David Ochoa falls to 3-5. I'm pretty sure we can't get a 4-5 into the playoffs, but I'll have to do some math check on that. Our match between Paul Rietzel and... So, go ahead.
I think that too many people play each other. Like, we
Yeah,
already figured
somebody
out
has to win all those matches.
me and Luis are crisscrossing and just playing against Steve and Shuhei. And so with all these 4-4s kind of at the top, it's just, yeah. They have to play each other.
Paul Rietzel, unfortunately, we were not able to complete that match, so we will have 6 matches when we come back after the Pro Tour. Paul's match with Rich has been postponed. And your showdown with Luis, oh my God, that match was insane. Really one of the craziest matches we've had, I think, in VSL.
Yeah, I mean, Luis got really lucky, but I was able to use pure talent to find my way out of it.
Ha! That's okay. That's you guys can go watch the replay and decide if you agree with Eric's interpretation of things.
I mean, yeah, we played a mirror match that yeah, I was ready to concede in game 1. That's for sure. That was 1% maybe. Didn't want to waste the time. Pretty ridiculous.
We've had some long shots come in over the course of the season. It's been fun. So last match was, of course, Shuhei maintaining his pole position for number 1 seed. Oath still working. Still working. Finds himself 6-2. He's definitely in the playoffs. The only question is how high his seed is, how many buys he's going to get in that top 4 playoff.
Yeah, he's guaranteed. Oh, I guess not. We have to figure out what happens in the Rich Shea match. I was going to say he's guaranteed to at least play a play-in for the 1 seed, but not quite yet. Rich could run off 2 in a row.
Yeah, we've resolved last place. No drama there, but the playoffs are wide open. There's still a bunch of things that could happen. We could still get a crazy mass tie scenario and have a bunch of playoff games. We'll sort that out when we come back for week 9. That's how this is going to work. Depending on how many people are tied, probably wind up playing those. Go ahead.
Nobody's going to be jet lagged. It's going to be some pure magic. Rich is actually at a huge advantage. He gets to play 2 matches against people who probably just flew 20-something hours.
Funny.
Great timing.
Yeah, so we will be back after the Pro Tour. So 2 weeks off, come back for week 9. Gonna be a fun finish, guys. Crazy finish. Everything still to play for. We'll see you then.